Okay, so here we are live once again, and I'm going to be opening up these Mcfarlane Princess Bride action figures. It was God, it's been a few weeks now, but it still doesn't seem like it's been that long since we had the tragic loss of director Rob Reiner and his wife in just a horrible, horrible fashion. And like when when it happened, I felt like I needed to acknowledge it on the show because this is one of my favorite movies of all time. And he's directed a lot of great movies over the years. He had Stand By Me, Misery, Spinal Tap, Few Good Men. I watched The Sure Thing. That's one of his earlier movies. I watched When Harry Met Sally. A lot of great movies. But I watched The Sure Thing. It was free on YouTube, and that was something I'd stumbled across. That was a cute little movie. But I don't know. I kind of feel like the best way to remember an artist is through his art. And this is definitely my favorite movie that he ever directed. And they made action figures of it. I think they might have made action figures of Spinal Tap, too. I seem to kind of vaguely remember that they made figures of Spinal Tap. But anyway, I have a few Princess Bride figures here, and I never got around to opening them up. So I figured when I heard about what had happened, I'm like, oh, that's a good way to honor Rob Reiner and by extension his wife, who was a photographer, and they met during the filming of When Harry Met Sally. But yeah, I got all these on sale. I got this one at Books A Million. It was only $20, and that's Fezzik, Andre the Giant. And we got for $12, I got Princess Buttercup in her red dress. That's her riding outfit. The Dread Pirate Roberts, aka Wesley. And then I found at Ross for $4.99 the bloodied version of Inigo Montoya. And then last but not least, I forget how much I paid for him. I think it was like $10. Found Vizzini on Big Bad Toy Store. So yeah, that's that's how I got all of those. So when I was a kid, I remember seeing on Siskel and Ebert, they did a review of this, and I thought it looked like a pretty interesting movie, and had a lot of cool stuff in it, and Billy Crystal playing like this weird old man that reminded me of Mel Brooks. So, and I don't know how intentional that was, because Mel Brooks was a dude that Rob Reiner knew. That was like his father's best friend. So I don't know if that was intentional or not. I'd never seen where he'd said one way or the other, but I was a big Mel Brooks fan already by that point. I'd seen Spaceballs and Blazing Saddles, and I was a fan of the guy. So yeah, and this dude who looked like Zorro, dueling, and Andre the Giant's in it, and it just looked like a cool movie. And we didn't go to the movies a whole lot when I was that age. So even though it was a movie I was interested in watching, I figured I'd have to wait till it was on video or something. And then one day, when my mom picked us up from school, she told us about how she had seen this movie and she really enjoyed it. She wanted us to watch it too. And it was called The Princess Bride. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's that movie. I remember that movie. So this turned out to be one of my mom's favorite movies. And I actually got her a set of Princess Bride figures for Mother's Day one year. Because, other ones that were on sale at Books A Million. But I actually wound up getting her some different figures, because I got her the unmasked, I believe it was the bloodied version of Wesley, and I got her Buttercup in the wedding dress. So yeah, so I got her a different set of figures practically from what I got. I think I also got her Inigo, and it was the bloody version, because I got the two of those that they had at Ross. But yeah, so So I got her those. They're still in the box. She's still got hers still in the box. But I got her the unmasked Wesley and the Buttercup in the wedding dress because I figured that way, if she wanted to, she could have them in the pose drop your sword. If she wanted to, she could do that. So got some artwork from the movie poster on the side here, and unfortunately mine got torn there because it's Princess Buttercup, red dress, picture of Robin Wright. You mock my pain, never do it again. I died that day. Yeah. Dread Pirate Roberts, Fezzik, and Inigo Montoya. That's the cross-sell artwork we get. 22 moving parts, and she's got a soft goods dress. And let's go ahead and open her up. So I'm going to open up all 4 of these figures. Let's not waste any more time. All right, so there we got Buttercup out of the package. And it looks like a pretty decent likeness of Robin Wright. I don't think she's quite as pretty as she was in real life. She's still a very attractive woman. And then, of course, I don't know if this is her most famous role at this point, because it might have been overtaken by Jenny in Forrest Gump, which, a lot of people talk about. She's one of those characters that's not really technically a villain, but, a lot of people consider her to be the true villain of the movie kind of thing, like Grandpa Joe and Willy Wonka. But I can kind of get it with Jenny. I can kind of understand why people would feel that. Grandpa Joe is one of those things where it's like, I think you guys are just being like, trying to be hipster or something. Like, but Buttercup was sweet. She's a great actress. I see her in a lot of stuff. She was in Wonder Woman. She played Dinah's aunt. Antiope, is that how you pronounce that? Now, she was a character that was in the comic book also, but I kind of felt like they beefed up her role in the movie quite a bit. I really liked her in that movie. It's kind of ironic is that Cary Elwes was also in a Wonder Woman production. He was in that really awful pilot. It's like Buttercup's Wonder Woman project was better than Wesley's. There we go. That was that one where Wonder Woman went to get information out of a thug that was in the hospital. So she takes her magic lasso off her bracelet, and I'm like, oh, she's going to use her magic lasso to make him tell the truth. And she sets it down, and then she starts torturing the guy. You got a magic lasso that makes people tell the truth. What are you? That was when I'm like, I'm glad this show didn't go to series. This is hopeless. All right, so here she is out of the package, and she's got this long skirt. It's very long. I'm gonna drag on the ground when she walks, but that's I think fairly accurate for medieval stuff. She's got this nice gold belt that kind of ties around her waist. Obviously, not a belt that's made to hold pants up. It's a belt that's made to make her dress look better. That's how that is. Kyrus, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, is here and says hello. Hello right back at you. I like your thumbnail picture because it's Batman. I like Batman. All right. So let's go ahead and we're gonna take a little peek under her skirt, but this is not, we're not being pervy about it. This is for the sake of examining the action figure. And I think she's probably gonna have riding pants underneath this anyway. And sure enough, she got riding pants, so that's cool. And she's got little pirate boots, like little Captain America type boots. Kyra says, yeah, Dark Knight Returns is my favorite Batman story. Well, that's a good choice. That's one of the all-time greatest Batman stories, I think. So, yeah, I read that one when I was like 10 years old, which was probably like way too young to read that story, but whatever, I loved it. I didn't care. And it seems like the belt is kind of attached. It is attached to the upper torso piece, and the skirt is up underneath the torso piece, and her legs have double jointed knees, There's no boot cut, but she's got that cool Mcfarlane ankle articulation, so we can move the ankles around any which way we want to. She can do the splits no problem. If you have a horse that's in scale with her, I'm pretty sure you can fit her on that horse. If I'd have thought about it, I'd have went ahead and got one of my Mcfarlane horses and brought it in here with me so I could put her on the horse, because I've got three, because, I've got both of the Jonah Hex figures, the standard and the platinum edition. So I have the brown horse and the white horse, and I have the Dark Knight Returns. I have that horse. So yeah, you can get her onto a horse. You could have her ride at side saddle. She can fit on it side saddle. Do whatever. So, and her arms rotate all the way around. Doesn't seem to be a butterfly joint, but it's got like there's no spacer in there, but it's still got that kind of wobble to it. She can raise her arms up to the sides about that far. I got a bicep cut, so the bicep rotates all the way around. Got double jointed elbows. That's about the range of motion you get at the elbows. She's got these big poofy sleeves, and unfortunately, because of the way that they hang down, I think that kind of limits like the display options. Like her arms looks kind of weird when it's bent up that way. But I guess that's the design of the sleeves. There probably wasn't a whole lot they could do with it. Kairos says, I'm planning to get the Mcfarlane Batcave computer. It lights up. I have to save up. Oh, yeah, that one's expensive. That's like, what, $200? I don't know if I'm going to be able to afford that at this point. But, maybe if I see it on sale at some point, I might pick it up. Or maybe some generous person will get it for me as like a birthday present or something like that. But this is a pretty decent figure. Like I said, I think the likeness is okay. It's decent enough. I can tell who it's supposed to be, but she's just not quite as pretty as the real life Robin Wright was. Which, a lot of the times it's hard to capture a pretty girl, like the likeness of an attractive woman. It's kind of difficult to capture in action figure form, I find, in a mass-produced action figure form like that. But I can tell who it's supposed to be, so that's a good thing. She's got the cool Mcfarlane ball joints at the wrist. I think that's about everything to say about this. She doesn't come with any accessories, except for a figure stand, which I haven't gotten out yet. So she got a figure stand, and it looks like our typical Mcfarlane kind of figure stand, but it's got a Princess Bride logo on it. So there we go. And the inside, the insert on the inside of the package is also based on that movie poster artwork with the similar background with the mountains and the trees in the foreground and everything. All right, so let's move on to our next figure. And I guess since we opened up Buttercup, we can open up Wesley. I guess that would be the next obvious choice. And this one was original. You can see the sticker on the bottom was originally $26.99. Books A Million is at the mall. It's going to be a little more expensive than, picking something up at a Walmart or something. But since I was able to get it for $12, it's Kyra says, are they making Andre the Giant for the Princess Bride? Yeah, I've got him right here. So he's going to get opened up on this episode too. This is an episode where I'm opening up multiple figures since it's a special episode. And by the way, I think next episode I'm going to start opening up the Masters of the Universe figures that I have to open up this week. And most of those are going to be Turtles of Grayskull, but I've got the cartoon collection King Randor. So he's probably going to be the next figure I open up, but I'm not sure exactly when I'm going to get around to that yet. So we got Wesley here, the Dread Pirate Roberts. And he does have an accessory because, well, Wesley's got to come with his sword, right? So let's go ahead and get this sword out of here before we do anything else. And come on. And the sword seems to me like it's kind of a fluby sort of plastic. It's not quite as rigid as I would like for a sword to be. And it did get a little warped in the packaging, but it's kind of a softer plastic, unfortunately. But it's a nicely sculpted sword. You got the handguard and everything here. And you can see the handguard here. I don't know if this is how it actually was in the movie. I don't remember if there was that space here. But you see there's that little bit of space there where it doesn't quite attach. And that's going to be good for us when we go ahead and put the sword in the figure's hand. It's going to make it a little bit easier. So I'm not complaining about that. Let me get my snips again. Kyra says the Mythic Legion sword are very rigid hard. Well, that's good. I don't know if they have a sword that looks like this one, though. This sword is fairly distinct. Although not as distinct as Inigo's sword when we get to that. I think this is another one of those movies that was kind of very influential on my sense of humor. There's the scene where he's climbing up the side of the cliff, and Inigo says, I could throw you a rope, but I don't think you would take it since I'm only waiting here to kill you. And Leslie says, well, that does put a damper on our relationship. Yeah, there's some good detail to this. Like Wesley's shirt in the movie, you might remember, had that kind of texture at the shoulders there. And they got the texture on there just fine. Again, he's got sort of pirate boots. I'd mentioned before how Wesley's outfit was seems kind of inspired by Zorro. I've never heard anybody say that was inspired by Zorro, but come on. Come on. Lone Dragon is here and says, right hand, just the way our mother likes it, Trebek. Rigid hard. Sorry, that's my dyslexia again. Rigid hard, yeah. But he is not left-handed. So articulation is going to be interesting on this guy. So it looks like he's got a single joint of articulation at the elbow, and they're rather stiff. Oh, this one's super stiff. That's just the way Amada likes it to the back. Oh, man, I don't even know if it's going to go any further than that. This elbow, you can get at least a right angle out of it. And is it going to rotate? I think it rotates. Yeah, it rotates. So it should rotate all the way around. So no double jointed elbow in this guy, but he's got big poofy pirate shirt sleeves. I don't want to be a pirate. Well, you're a pirate, and you're a dread pirate, actually. He's got the cool Mcfarlane ankle articulation, cool Mcfarlane wrist articulation. Kyra says, I had to sell a lot of figures. I went crazy and irresponsible collector. I bought too many lines. Now I just collect 3 lines, no more. That's probably a good decision. Like, God knows I spend way too much on action figures. There, I finally got it loosened up. Never force your action figure joints. Use some gentle coaxing. Use some gentle coaxing. And if that doesn't do the job, apply some heat. Use a hairdryer or boil it in some water. And now it's stuck again. I think it might actually be getting stuck, like the sculpt itself. Because there's actually this isn't like a plain joint here like you'd see on some other action figures. Like, since I happen to have this guy here, our Ardath Bey mummy figure, you can see that when NECA did big poofy sleeves on him, they don't have any wrinkles or anything in those joints. Those joints are still just kind of round, but Mcfarlane actually bothered to sculpt in the wrinkles at the joints. You see that there? And I think that it might not be that the plastic itself is stiff, but that it's somehow getting caught on those joints. Use lube, says Lone Dragon. Yeah, well, I don't want him to get messy, so we're not gonna use the lube. But he's got the cool Mcfarlane wrist articulation, the cool Mcfarlane ankle articulation. He's got he does have spacers, so he does have butterfly joints. He's got articulation at the torso, kind of where it meets his sash. Man, now I'm thinking I would have liked to have gotten an extra one of these guys and actually made a Zorro figure, because I think that would have worked out pretty good. But there's a lot of good detail to him, a lot of sort of cloth texture. You can see he's got the ties in the front of the shirt, and everything like that. He's got the sword sheath. It's got some silver detailing. The scabbard. Let's see if the sword can fit in the scabbard. And it seems like it's a kind of a tight fit. And I'm having to bend it as I put it in. And once I get it in all the way, Lone Dragon, once I get it in as far as it will go, you can see that it kind of bends up the sword. So even though it's functional, here we go. The sword sheath actually is articulated, so that's good. But it's still kind of pushing the sword outwards a little bit, and it's kind of bending up the handguard. So I would not recommend to anybody who has this figure, I would not recommend leaving the sword in the sword sheath. So let's see how well he can hold it in his hand. And he's got that problem that Mcfarlane figures tend to have, where the plastic on the hands is much more rigid than the plastic on the accessory. And that's not what you want to have. That's the opposite of what you want to have. Like you want to be able to pull back the fingers and fit the weapon in there. But it's not wanting to cooperate that way. But I managed to get it in there. So there we go. And he doesn't have any alternate hands. So he can only hold his, you see the left hand is more posed for balance. And the right hand is the gripping hand. So unfortunately, we cannot do the, I'm not left-handed either. He can't hold the sword in his left hand at all. So he's really, really not left-handed. But he's got the, the little ties in the back for his do-rag. So yeah, again, this is a really good likeness of Cary Elwes. And they put a little bit of dry brushing onto his chin to represent some stubble. But I think they kind of overdid it. And it got kind of clumpy in some parts. You can see over here, it almost kind of looks more like some dirt was smeared on Wesley's face. But great figure. They did a good job with this one. I'm really happy with how he turned out. So let's move on to our next figure, because we've still got 3 more to go. This is going to be a long episode. He was in The Bride too, the Sting Frankenstein movie, says Kyrus. Yeah, I actually really like that movie. And I really liked Sting as Baron Charles Frankenstein. It's weird how they'll just change Victor's name when Victor is like the most perfect name you could have for that character, because it's so freaking ironic. But but they wound up giving the name Victor to the creature in that movie, to Clancy Brown. I forget the name of the actor that plays the creature's friend in that movie, the dwarf. Great actor. I remember seeing him in a lot of stuff. He was in Time Bandits. He had his show, The Wizard. I cried when the midget died. My girlfriend used to make fun of me. Well, it was sad, especially like I was sad for him, and I was sad for the creature because he lost his only friend. At least until he hooked back up with the bride at the end. I think that's one of the only ones where the creature gets a happy ending, isn't it? Even the recent one, the Netflix, the Del Toro Frankenstein. Even that one, he's got kind of like a bittersweet sort of ending. But, that was a really good movie. Speaking of action figures they should make, I really want like a Del Toro Frankenstein action figure. Hell, I want a whole I want Victor and Elizabeth. Yep, that was a hot bride, says Kyrus. Flashdance, yeah. What a feeling. Yeah, I always had a huge crush on her. But yeah, like Cary Elwes' character in that was kind of a jerk. She means nothing to me, Frankenstein. But I could also kind of see how it would be one of those things where somebody might be watching that movie and thinking to themselves, you know, he'd be a good choice for Wesley. I think he could pull that off. You know, and I wouldn't be surprised if Rob Reiner saw that movie and that was what he was thinking. So Rob Reiner bought the rights to The Princess Bride like way like back when it was a new book, back in the 1970s, back when he was still a meathead on All in the Family, Michael Stivic. You know, the character's real name was Michael Stivic, but we always just called him Meathead. It's affectionate. Lone Dragon says, and then Sting became a wrestler after that. You know, the funny thing is, like Sting the wrestler was named Sting before Sting the musician. So actually, like the wrestler had that name first, I believe. I remember seeing a picture of Sting meeting Sting. Because the musician, his kids were actually big fans of the wrestler. Yeah, Kyrus, I can't believe Meathead is dead. Sucks. Yeah, I was really just kind of shocked to hear, and in such a horrible way too. But you know, I'd kind of wanted to do this video sooner because like I kind of wanted to do it like right when it happened, but I was still in the middle of those GI Joe figures, and I'm like, you know, I'm gonna give it a little bit of time. I'm gonna wait just a little bit. So I cut the tape over here. You guys saw me cut the tape over here, but the sword is still sticking to it fairly well. And this is the bloodied version of Inigo. So he's got the bloody sword, the Count Rugen's blood on there, and such craftsmanship. I've never seen its equal. But they did a really good job with the design of the hilt, with the snakes and everything, the sword that Inigo's father made for the six-fingered man, and then he tried to haggle after the fact, and Count Rugen wound up killing his father. Meathead was he was funny. That was just a great show. Like I started watching some clips of All in the Family, like on YouTube, like after I heard Rob Reiner had passed, and there was a really funny bit with him and Archie, where like he was putting on his shoe. Michael was putting on his shoes, and he puts on his sock. He puts on one sock, and then he puts on the shoe over it. And Archie is just aghast at this, and he's like, "Hey, meathead, you put both your socks on, and then you put your shoes on after. You realize most people put both the socks on and then put both the shoes on." And he's like, "Well, I put one sock on and one shoe on." Like, and then they're arguing about who's right about the order in which you put on your socks and shoes, which is kind of a ridiculous thing. And honestly, I'm on Archie's side because I put my socks on and then put my shoes on, and I think probably he's right. Probably most people do that, but again, I don't think it really matters what order you put it in. So Meathead's kind of right about that too. but Archie's like, "Look, what if there was a fire or something, and you know you do it my way, and you don't have a chance to put your shoes on. You're not barefoot." You at least got your socks on. And then Michael kind of thinks about it for a second. Like he's actually considering what Archie's saying. And then he says to him, "Yeah, but my way, if I do it your way, I still wind up with wet feet. If I do it my way, I can at least hop around if it's raining." Lone Dragon says, "I was just thinking about that shoe scene." Yeah, see, that's this classic. It's it's like and I like it because they're arguing, but it's kind of like it's not like the really angry sort of arguments that they have a lot of the times on that show where it's like some really deep, important topic that you know they're arguing about. It's just kind of a silly thing that they're arguing about. So they're kind of being silly about it while they're arguing about it, you know. But But yeah, that was just a great show. That was easily one of the greatest sitcoms of all time. So here we got Inigo out of the package, and like I said, it's the bloody Inigo, and they use this really glossy, clear red paint, so it looks nice and wet. He looks like he's bleeding, like the blood on the hands. It looks like blood that's fairly fresh, and it's just at the point of getting sticky. And again, one of these hands is for balance, and the other hand is for gripping. So he cannot. I am not left-handed. He can't do that, unfortunately. But to be fair, this is not from the scene where he's, I kill him left-handed. If I do right-handed, it's too easy. No, this is from later on in the movie where he's having his final confrontation with Count Rugen, and Rugen has stabbed him in both of his arms and his shoulder and his tummy, and he's bleeding out, and he finds strength from his desire for revenge, to avenge his father who was murdered right in front of his eyes. Oh, Kyra says, I just subbed. Well, thank you. That reminds me, while I'm thinking about it, everybody make sure you like and subscribe, because YouTube likes it when I say like and subscribe. So I might as well throw that in there again. Nice likeness of Mandy Patinkin. Nice little sneer on his face. I think this is probably the best likeness that I've seen opening up these figures so far. Like I said, Carrie Elwes's likeness was really good, but I kind of felt like they overdid the stubble, and they did not overdo the stubble on Inigo. But he's got his mustache and his sneer and his nice look on his face, and the bloody paint just looks so cool. And the vest, the belt, lots of good details to that. And he's articulated pretty much the same way as Wesley, except for he's got a bicep swivel, and he's got double jointed elbows, because I guess his arms weren't quite as poofy as Wesley, so they could go ahead and give him those double jointed elbows, double jointed knees. He can do the splits no problem. He can kick up about that far. I realize I'm kind of glossing over the articulation on these guys, but it's like I got a lot of these to open up. So and like I said, this isn't really like an episode, like this isn't really like an in-depth look at these figures kind of thing. So if anybody came to this this episode to see that, I do apologize. But it's really more a tribute to this movie and its director. So this is kind of what this is intended to be in my mind. So, and I'm just kind of making sure that I got the wrist tilted the right way so I don't wind up breaking it. But unfortunately, since this is the Inigo that I have, and the Wesley that I have, it's not them in the same scene. I have Wesley and Buttercup in the same scene, but not Wesley and Inigo. So, but they do still look really cool next to each other, don't they? And you can still have them dual if you want to. But maybe you can just try to find the cleaner version of Inigo. But like I said, I got him for $5 at Ross a few years ago. So all these I've had for a really long time, and I've been meaning to open them up, and just eventually it was just the right time. It was the time where like I kind of felt like I had to open them up at that time. Lone Dragon says, my favorite All in the Family bit ever was the time that Archie says, you ain't supposed to say Dago no more because the Wops get sore about it. Yeah. I remember one bit where Archie was talking. It was one of the later seasons. Archie was talking about how like he heard somebody say the N-word and it really bothered him, and he's like, I ain't used that word in 3 years. I think like the thing is about Archie Bunker is like, even though like the character was a bigot, like it was pretty much because of just like, kind of the environment he was a part of, and he kind of grew over the show. And I don't think he ever really stopped being like 100% a bigot, but he would become like better about it. At least he was growing. And that, by the way, I didn't really show But there's the picture of Inigo on the back, and you see the cross-style artwork on this says Buttercup in her wedding dress, and the bloody version of the Dread Pirate Roberts, and Vizzini, which is the next one that I'm opening. And I don't think I showed the, yeah, there's the picture of Wesley on the back. Dread Pirate Roberts. And the Dread Pirate Roberts was not known for taking prisoners. And Vizzini comes with some accessories. So let's go ahead and get him out. All right, everybody say it with me. Inconceivable! Lady Virgo Cool is here. Howdy to you two. All right. So let's go ahead and get him out of the package. And I think I'm going to take the goblets out first. Oh, they're taped in. I didn't notice they were taped. They are fairly deep in the package, so I don't know if they really needed to tape them, but they did. So we get these goblets out. And I don't know if I'd be able to fit one of these goblets into Wesley's hand, but we'll try. Vizzini has 2 gripping hands, which technically comes with 2 accessories. So go ahead and cut these rubber tabs here. And Vizzini's got some really good sculpting on this figure. There's a lot of detail to this guy's jacket. So obviously it would need some good sculpting detail and some good paint detail, because it's this kind of like these kind of patches, like it's kind of put together from like patches of fabric. Anybody want a peanut? Oh, we're almost there. Yeah. And again, great likeness of Wallace Shawn, but I think they overdid that stubble just a little bit. But yeah, the jacket itself is kind of like this soft sort of sheath over the figure. Most of Indigo's vest is the same way, and he looks like he's got the same sort of elbow articulation as Wesley, because his arms are so bulky and poofy. And like Vizzini in real life, he's a rather short dude. There he is next to Inigo. There he is next to Wesley. There he is next to Buttercup. Even she's taller than him. And we haven't gotten Andre out of the package yet, but once we get him out, I'll go ahead and show you next to all the other figures how tall Andre the Giant is. But he's got some good articulation too, except for I just broke his leg off. Well, I didn't break his leg off. It just kind of popped off. But unfortunately, it popped off at kind of a weird angle. So I don't know how easy it's going to be to get it back on with that lower part of the jacket and everything. But, you know, he's Vizzini. It's not like he's going to be doing kung fu kicks anyway. So I'll probably just have him standing on the shelf holding his goblet. Me from my glass and you from yours. You falling victim to one of the classic blunders. The first and most well-known is never start a land war in Asia, but only slightly less well-known is this. Never cross a Sicilian when death is on the line. Lone Dragon says, nice job, Fumbles. Well, we were talking about Fumbles in one of the previous episodes. All right, so when I put Wesley down, his sword accidentally bumped against my computer monitor, and it got kind of warped. But I was able to get it bent back into shape. It wasn't like that too long. So let's get the sword out of his hand. And we're going to see if we can get Wesley to hold this goblet. And the tricky part is going to be, since, like I said, the hands are kind of a rigid plastic. But I actually was able to fit it in there fairly well. So they can have their battle of wits. We saw Inigo dueling with Wesley, and now we see Vizzini dueling with Wesley. So he beats the giant with strength, and he beats the swordsman with skill, and he beats the genius with brains. So that's all the accessories he came with. He just came with the 2 goblets. It could have gave him a dagger also, since he did have the dagger that he threatened Buttercup with, but he doesn't come with that. Just the 2 goblets, no dagger, unfortunately. But he does have his figure stand, so let's make sure we get that out of there before I put the boxes back together. And I wound up peeling the whole thing off. But that's fine. It's a figure stand, so I should be able to still get it off fairly easily. And even if I can't get the... There we go. Even if it was going to be kind of a pain, I could have used the X-Acto knife. But whatever, we got it done. It's all good. So that's all of, like, the regular-sized figures. Well, that could have been a lot worse. Did not realize that my Dremel was sitting on the couch. And he beat his meat to Buttercup. Well, can't really blame him. I bet Wesley did a lot of the time when he was on that pirate ship. It was probably the only thing that kept him going. Good night, Wesley. Sleep well. Most likely kill you in the morning. There we go. All right. Now, last and certainly not least, Andre the Giant himself, Fezzik, in a role that was literally written for him. William Goldman had this had Andre the Giant in mind when he wrote this character in the novel. And can you imagine anybody else playing Fezzik but Andre the Giant? And it's one of those things where it's like Andre wasn't like a professional actor, really. You know, he was a wrestler. You know, that was how he started out. And but it's one of those characters where I kind of feel like you don't really have to be a great actor to play Fezzik. As great a character as Fezzik is, like you just kind of have to have like a certain personality, a certain mindset, a certain kind of charisma that comes through. And like I said, the character was based off Andre in the first place. So who better to play him? And he definitely was able to play this character with aplomb. And became really good friends with Billy Crystal during the making of this movie. And the movie My Giant, which Billy Crystal made with another really tall guy, was originally going to be a project for Billy Crystal and Andre to do together, but unfortunately Andre passed away far too early. You know, unfortunately, the very size that made him a legend, the very thing that made him the 8th wonder of the world, also caused him a number of health problems. But we're always going to remember Andre. He's always going to be a legendary figure. And hey, guess what? He comes with a peanut. And I don't remember him actually, like, literally having a peanut in the movie. It's just a rhyme that he makes. But, you know, it's a great little representation of probably his favorite line in the movie, or my favorite line of his in the movie. How about the guy who played Jaws? Yeah, see, he was another one who had a lot of health problems because of his excessive height. Richard Kiel. That was that actor's name. All right. Richard Kiel was the original choice to play the Incredible Hulk in the live action television series, but I think it was Kenneth Johnson's kid saw him on the set in the costume and was like, Dad, that's not what the Hulk is supposed to look like. You know, he's supposed to be like really muscular. And then they wound up deciding to go for a bodybuilder, and they talked with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Schwarzenegger turned them down, but he recommended Lou Ferrigno, who is like even taller than, you know, Lou is taller than Arnold. I think Lou is like 6'7". There you go, kids. I said 6'7". Go ahead and laugh about it. But and then he comes with his rock. When you see his head peek around the corner, hit him with the rock. My way's not very sportsmanlike. Yeah, well. But yeah, there's still one shot of Richard Kiel as the Hulk in the pilot episode, which is that really quick shot where it's like a crane shot that kind of zooms up a tree as the Hulk looks at it. That's the one remaining shot of Richard Kiel that's in the pilot. But yeah, Richard Kiel was like a really tall guy. They cast him as the Hulk because they wanted a tall, they were thinking big guy, but they were thinking like tall guy. But he wasn't a particularly muscular guy. So, and honestly, I don't think that Richard Kiel would have had the physicality, not just like the musculature, but the athleticism that that Lou was able to bring to the Hulk. Like, remember the Hulk ran a lot. And Lou was a guy who was in good shape, so he could run. But Richard Kiel, I don't know how well that guy could run. I don't think I've ever seen Richard Kiel run once in my life. Oh, there we go. Out of the package. And Andre is indeed a giant. If I'd have thought about it, I would have gotten one of the larger Mcfarlane DC figures over here to have him stand next to Andre. But thankfully, even though I didn't think about it, I do have Darkseid over here. So we can see how Andre the Giant stacks up to Darkseid. And indeed, they are pretty much the exact same height. Andre is technically a little bit taller, but he's also got hair. So they're pretty much the same exact height between Darkseid and Andre. And speaking of Arnold Schwarzenegger, also happen to have Mr. Freeze over here. So we can see how Andre towered over Arnold. Because like I said, Arnold wasn't really that tall of a guy, or isn't really that tall of a guy. He's like not short. He's like over 6 feet, but he's not like superhumanly tall like Andre is. So like a lot of the mega figures, whatever you want to call them, he's not quite as well articulated as some of the regular size figures, probably to make up for a lot of the plastic that's used on this guy. He's got a single joint of articulation at the knee, for example, that bends about that far. No boot cut, doesn't have the cool Mcfarlane ankle articulation. He's just got kind of standard hinge there. So yeah, we can kind of rotate at the waist, but not all the way around. Wrists rotate all the way around, and they've got a horizontal hinge on them. God, his hands are huge. I've heard people talk about shaking hands with Andre the Giant, and they felt like a baby. With look at Vizzini. You can fit Vizzini's hand like literally into Fezzik's hand. And as I promised, here we see the tallest action figure that I'm opening up today versus the shortest action figure that I'm opening up today. So that's all of them together. Lone Dragon says you could have a tag match, Andre and Superman versus Darkseid and Macho. I totally could do that, actually. Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, the only Macho Man figures that I have right now, though, are the Masters of the Universe ones. I don't have... I sold most of my wrestling action figures a long time ago. But, I probably wouldn't mind having another Macho. I got a few that I've bought in the last few years. I probably wouldn't mind having another Macho Man. So he's another one where they like really overdid the stubble. Great likeness of Andre, but just like it looks like he hasn't shaved in a few days. And I think they kind of overdid also the shading around the eyes a little bit. Now Andre did have the around the eyes was kind of dark, So, but I think they kind of just overdid it slightly. maybe a little less under the eyebrow, maybe not so much under the eyelid. Lone Dragon says, "Yeah, I've been waiting for a Macho Man figure I like to come out." The funny thing is, like both of the Masters of the Universe versions I have, I really like, and one is like more the '80s kind of Macho Man, and they got that purple T-shirt, but they redid it as being like the Battle Armor He-Man, and the other one was the NWO Macho Man, and that one was kind of made to look like the Horde. So he had Hordak's vest, but instead of the red Horde logo on the breastplate, it was a white Horde logo on the breastplate. But yeah, Randy Savage, he was definitely one of the all-time great wrestlers. You know what? I don't think they ever made a figure of Bonesaw McGraw, and that's an oversight. Like, that character's a meme now. He ought to. Does he have a boot cut? I think he might actually have a boot. I might have been mistaken about that. Technically not a boot cut because like the whole boot is the shin, but it does rotate, so I'll take that back. But yeah, he's not the best articulated figure, but with a guy with this kind of bulk, it probably wouldn't be that easy to articulate him anyway. So this peanut, I'm thinking, is going to be impossible for him to hold in his hand. It's just this isn't really a gripping hand. It's kind of more of an open hand. I don't know if it's going to be able to hold either of these accessories. We're going to find out. And then a solid fist for the other hand. So you can kind of put the peanut like in the palm of his hand if you really wanted to have him pose with it. Anybody want a peanut? Like, you could do that. But like I said, the peanut wasn't a literal accessory in the movie anyway. So it's just a nice little Easter egg for true fans. Now, I can, surprisingly enough, fit the Rock in the hand. Not just have it sit on top of his hand while it's turned up. I can actually hold it in his hand and threaten to throw it at the Dread Pirate Roberts. So there we go. Great figure. All these are great figures. Like I said, the likeness on Buttercup could have been a little better. And they did overdo the stubble on 3 of the male characters. I guess that's better than them overdoing the stubble on Buttercup, if I have to pick one. So this was a really nice line of figures, and I'm guessing since like they were clearanced out that that they didn't sell that well. I'm kind of hoping it was one of those things where maybe Mcfarlane just made a bunch of them because it was a very popular movie, and they hopefully made a profit off of them, even though a lot of them wound up getting discounted. I'd hate to think that this wasn't a successful line, and they did do more than one wave, but they're really nice figures of a really great movie, and I'm really happy with how they turned out. I'm glad that I finally got around to opening them. I wish it hadn't have been under such tragic circumstances, but Lone Dragon says, I'd buy that for $1. Yeah, speaking of movies that I'd like to have more action figures of, I know NECA recently put out the RoboCop figure again, and I'd like to pick that up. But I kind of feel like RoboCop is one of those where they just don't make enough action figures, not just of like RoboCop as a character, but characters from the movie. Like, only recently I seen people make attempts at making a Clarence Boddicker action figure, and I'm like, how's it taken this long for us to get a Clarence action figure? So I remember when they put out the Alex Murphy action figure, and they had the parts of him getting shot up, and I'm like, oh great, I can have Alex Murphy get shot up by nobody because you haven't made Clarence or any of his gang members yet. Talking about my previous comment, fool. You can buy whatever you want to for $1. That's fine. How about a figure of Rasslor? Oh, I missed that one. I'm sorry. Rasslor from Dexter's Lab. Any figures from Dexter's Lab, honestly. Was it Dial M for Monkey? It was kind of a parody on a Thing comic book. I think it was an issue of Marvel 2-in-1 where Ben got challenged by some alien gladiator or something to fight for the survival of the Earth, and like the alien winds up defeating the thing, but the thing just won't give up, and it's the fact that he won't give up that earns his respect, and he decides to spare the planet Earth, even though he defeated the thing. His fighting spirit was the thing that impressed him, so he decided to let the Earth live anyway. And they adapted that into the Dial M for Monkey cartoon. They did kind of a parody of that. So, but the ending was still the same. I don't know how much of a parody it is, but you're just keeping the same ending and the same theme and everything. But I did really enjoy that cartoon, so I didn't really mind. Anyway, that's it for The Princess Bride. A very nice series of figures. And I don't have all of them even. Like, there's still more to get. Because like I said, there's the ones that I got from my mom that were different figures. There's the bloody version of Wesley, and there's the wedding dress for Buttercup, and there's the Fezzik with the Holocaust cloak, which, you figure I would have bought the one with the cape since it's an extra accessory, but I wanted to have a smiling Andre. That was my main thing. So and man, there's still a lot of characters they could have made from this. Omelette du fromage, says Lone Dragon. Yeah, that was another episode that I remember quite well. But I mean, they never made Prince Humperdinck. They never made Count Rugen. They never made Miracle Max or Valerie. Hell, I would buy action figures of Peter Falk and Fred Savage, even. Like, that would be something that would be cool to do, is just kind of like like what NECA did with E.T. and Elliot on the bicycle, where it's not really like an action figure so much as it's a statue, but it would be something cool to have on the shelf with the rest of your Princess Bride characters. But I think this line is pretty much over now, unfortunately. So anyway, rest in peace, Rob Reiner. I'm sorry that you went out and your wife in such a horrible way, and you didn't deserve that, man. Nobody really deserves to go out like that. Like it's just a whole horrible, tragic situation, and it broke my heart to hear about it, especially as a guy who, like I said, directed a whole bunch of movies that I really enjoyed. And but the good thing is, you're not going to be forgotten. You're going to be remembered. This is going to be a movie that people watch like hundreds of years from now, when they're not even making movies anymore. It's like, it'll still be something that people watch and pass down. And like, he made a lot of great movies, and you could argue that this isn't even his best one. I know people can make an argument for, say, A Few Good Men, or When Harry Met Sally, or Misery, or whatever. Stand By Me. Guy made a lot of good movies. But to me, this is my personal number one favorite movie that he ever made. So if I'm going to have action figures from any of them, that's a good choice. So that's it for this episode. This was almost an hour long, so not quite as long as I thought it might wind up being, but still a pretty long episode. Next episode, we're going to take another trip back to the planet Eternia, and we're gonna look at some more Masters of the Universe figures. Yeah, I know, some Masters of the Universe figures for a change. But next episode, I'm going to be opening up King Randor from the cartoon collection, since I have that one to open up. And then after that, we've got some Turtles of Grayskull to open up, and then we're going to segue back into some more Ninja Turtles. So, because we're going to be back on Ninja Turtles again. And we still got a lot of DC stuff to open up. Hell, by the time I get around to opening up all the DC stuff, I might have gotten more G.I. Joe stuff. Who knows? So that's it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure that you like and subscribe, and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about these Princess Bride action figures. We'll have Wesley get on here and put that sleeper hold on him. But that's it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. We will talk to you next time. Bye.